The Republican chairman of the House Judiciary Committee issuing subpoenas to former FBI Director James Comey and former Attorney General Loretta Lynch. House Republicans want to question both former high-level Obama officials about how the Justice Department and the Bureau handled the investigation into Hillary Clinton's use of a private server. Let's bring in Connecticut Democratic Congressman Jim Himes. He's the chairman of the House New Democrat Coalition and sits on the House Intelligence Committee. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Rick.
Republicans say this is about decisions made and not made by the DOJ during the 2016 presidential election, choosing to pursue President Trump's alleged ties to Russia, but not Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server. What say you?
I say that's just absolutely not true. The FBI investigated Hillary Clinton's use of that server. As you know, Jim Comey, during the presidential campaign, announced the existence of that investigation to the public, did not announce the investigation or the existence of the investigation into the president and his campaign, and then famously, 11 days before the election, announced that he was reopening that investigation. So that investigation of the server has been undertaken. It has been reviewed by the Inspector General. And by the way, it's been reviewed by people like me who have access to classified information, which is why, look, I welcome the testimony of Jim Comey and the former Attorney General. Every time these individuals have the opportunity to speak in public, the truth comes out, and truth is not the friend of those Republicans like Devin Nunes and Bob Goodlatte, who are just desperate to get back to the topic of Hillary Clinton and her emails.
Well, that's because Republicans argue that there wasn't enough done, that they may have had an investigation, but it didn't go far enough and didn't put her perhaps in the spot that they think she should be in at this point.
So these same Republicans put her for 9 hours of open testimony in front of one of their own investigations. So look, I understand, especially now that it turns out that the president's daughter was doing exactly what Donald Trump ran on, using a private email account for government business. I understand how they might want to go back to the Hillary Clinton thing. But look, this has been aired 6 times till Sunday. And as I say, bring it on. Let's air it some more, because look, I've been living this for a year or so. I've been living the allegations that there was improper behavior at the Department of Justice, that President Obama wiretapped Donald Trump at Trump Tower. None of these things turn out to be true. And the more people are testifying in public about the fact, the more it will be apparent that all of these allegations are just completely made up.
Well, Congressman, as far as Ivanka's emails are concerned, the White House has made it pretty clear there are a lot of differences between her and Hillary Clinton, that she didn't create a private server in her home or office. She never transmitted classified information. She didn't delete any emails, and all of them were retained in conformity with records preservation laws and rules. So they say this is apples and oranges. They're not the same
Well,
thing.
Of course they say this is apples and oranges. I could point out that you've got very senior government officials breaking the rules. And look, I'm not justifying Hillary Clinton's use of a private server. I think that was wrong, just as it was wrong for the president's daughter to do it. And I'm sure that they can find out that one used a Dell and the other used an Apple, and one is blonde and one is brown hair. They'll do everything they can to find the differences. The fact is, you had senior government officials going against protocol, and you know, who knows whether those were retained or not. Maybe if there's an investigation into Ivanka's use of emails, we'll discover that the behavior was as similar as it looked. Look, at the end of the day, that's not the important thing. At the end of the day, the important thing is that the American public regain confidence in the FBI, in the CIA, for example. Once again, the President of the United States is saying that all the good work done by the CIA around the Saudi Arabian killing of Khashoggi, I don't care. I don't believe that. Who knows? You know, we've got a lot of work to do to reestablish the confidence that Americans should have in organizations like the FBI and the CIA and the Department of Justice.
Congressman, what we do know is that Jim Comey is set to appear in 10 days, December 3rd, and that Lynch will appear the next day on the 4th. And Jim Comey tweeted yesterday, "Happy Thanksgiving," got a subpoena from House Republicans, and he wrote, "I'm still happy to sit in the light and answer all questions, but I will resist a closed-door thing because I've seen enough of their selective leaking and distortion. Let's have a hearing and invite everyone to see it." Is that what we can expect to go down?
Well, I think what's appropriate in this case is that, look, every American has an interest in the light of day being shined on these issues. No American should be comfortable with the idea that their government is operating behind closed doors. The exception to that, of course, would be if you need to ask Jim Comey, if we need to ask Jim Comey about classified information. So I think at some level Jim Comey is right. Let's any question that is not about classified information, that is not about something that we don't want out in the public, let's ask it. Let's ask it in open hearing with cameras running so Americans can see both the questions and the answers. And yeah, if you got to ask about something like a FISA application or something that's classified, then let's get the cameras out of the room. So I think, again, so long as we're not asking Jim Comey about classified information, let's have a good, open, transparent conversation that the American public can see and judge for themselves.
Well, based on past experience, if they do ask him about classified information, he's not going to answer that question, Congressman. We appreciate your time this morning. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving weekend.
Thanks a lot, Rick.